Hello and welcome to all the people who are on time to webinar. My name is Christopher Hoffreiter, and today you're watching the Motility Cabin Fever webinar series, Lead Imports. So I want to congratulate everyone who can hear me. You are the people who are here on time, so congratulations. I will not be congratulating anyone who joins after this point, so good for you. Also, one of the things I like to do just to start these webinars off, we do have a Q&A section where you're able to post questions. So I'm going to be moderating that, and we'll be answering questions towards the end of the presentation. So yeah, just make sure that you're able to find the Q&A section. And also, there is a I believe there's a raise your hand function. So if you're able to raise your hand in the meeting, go ahead and do that now. Okay. So I see some hands being raised. Excellent. So what that tells me is that everything's working fine as far as audio on my side. And again, everyone who can hear me now is on time to the meeting. We're actually not going to get started until about 5, maybe 6 minutes after the hour, so that way people struggling to get connected to audio have the ability to go ahead and get everything connected, get logged in like they should. This is the first in our series of webinars called Motility Cabin Fever webinar series. So yeah, we'll give people a little bit more time to get connected here. And again, as I said, we're going to be getting started in about 5 minutes after the hour. Okay, hello and welcome to anyone who's just joining the meeting now. My name is Chris Hoffreiter, and you're watching the Motility Cabin Fever webinar series. Today's subject that we're going to be talking about is going to be lead imports. Right now you should be able to see my screen. Just as a quick test to all the participants in the webinar, go ahead and raise your hand if you're able to see my screen right now. Okay, there's the hands being raised. So we're pretty close to the total number of registrants that we had for this webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Anyone who hasn't been able to join, they'll be able to get a copy of this training later on. Just send an email to support@motilitysoftware.com, and we'll be happy to get you a copy of this training, this webinar, the materials that we're using. So again, the subject we're going to be covering today is going to be lead imports. So what lead imports actually means, basically it's that when your customers are submitting inquiries on websites, like let's say for example RV Trader, that customer is actually entering in their information onto the website, and then they might actually select a stock number that you've published on that website. They're also going to put in maybe their questions in plain text, and then they hit a button to submit, so there's going to be some kind of button on that website that lets them submit their query and get some kind of a response. So that's pretty valuable information to you, and that information is going to then be emailed to the dealership, and the email is going to contain the customer's first name and last name. The email is going to contain things like the stock number that they're interested in. So what a lead import means is our software can automatically parse that email and create a lead in the CRM. We can also automatically assign that lead to one of your salespeople based on a rotation. And then those new leads can be tracked in the manager's dashboard. So those are the three basic points that we're going to be talking about in the training today. How those leads show up in the CRM and how to track them in the manager's dashboard, and also what information we get and we put onto the customer from the lead import. So some things that I'm not going to be talking about today. I'm not going to talk about how to actually configure the lead import. As far as the setup of the lead import, that's all handled by our support department. So if you have an interest in setting up a lead import, what we would need from you as a dealership is just get a copy, maybe 1 or 2 copies of leads that you're being emailed from your web provider. Get copies of those. If all the emails pretty much have the same format, you can just send us 1 copy of the lead emails that you're receiving right now, and our support department can set up that lead import for you. The way we set it up kind of varies depending on the web provider that you're using or which websites you're getting leads from. Some web providers are aggregators, so they may actually send your units out to several different websites, RV Trader and others, and then they can aggregate those leads and just send you a standard format back. So it just depends. It just depends on which company you're using for your web marketing. But just send us a copy of that lead email and we'll do the rest as far as setting it up. So right now I'm going to open up our CRM module and talk about how the leads get imported by creating a new lead and kind of walking you through that process. This is our CRM module. I'm not going to go into too much detail about how all this works, but this is the way salespeople are using the CRM. If I come in here and hit Add New Contact, one of the things that the customer does on your website is they're going to put in their first name and last name. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and fill out a last name and a first name here. Now, we can also put in an address. And the customer may also put in their zip code. One thing that our lead importer will do is it's going to try to find existing leads in your database, and it's going to try not to create a duplicate based on the customer going back to the website, putting in their information again, and hitting that submit button when they've already done it either on a different website or they may have purchased from you in the past. So there might already be a lead in here with that information. So we're going to try to prevent creating duplicates based on matching it up. But what we are going to do is try to create either a new lead or attach the request to an existing lead when we import it. Okay, so this is just some basic information at the top here. The other information that we're going to be importing will be on the Unit Preferences tab. Let's say the customer was browsing your website and they're interested in a particular stock number. Well, what would happen is that stock number would already be on their request when they submitted it on your website. So we will get that stock number and put it in under Unit Preferences when we parse the lead. Unit Preferences are a very convenient way to have things like the make and the model that they're interested in. So even if you don't close the sale at this point with that particular stock number, they still have a unit preference in here. So if for some reason your salesperson needs to get a list of customers, they can do an advanced search. They can go to Unit Preferences, put in the make, put in the model, and be able to get a listing of customers based on that preference. So that information is captured automatically. So again, you don't have to enter any of this in. It's basically, we're going to read that email for you and create the lead for you. So there's a big time saver here. You're not having to key in all this information because the customer already did that for you. So some other information that we might pull over, if the customer fills out trade information, if they have a unit to trade in as a part of their inquiry, we'll actually get that trade information here in terms of the make, the model, the VIN number if they typed it in. So a unit trade is going to be captured as well from the lead parsing. All right, so there's a few other pieces of information. If I jump over to the lead info tab, a few other pieces of information will automatically be captured, including potentially the advertising lead. Advertising lead, of course, is the website that actually referred this customer to you. So normally with lead parsing, we know which website generated the information. So we can automatically fill out the advertising lead as well as the lead type. Generally, lead type is going to be something like web up or web lead in your system. So what we would end up with is we'd have the actual website that referred this customer, which like let's say Auto Trader, and then the lead type would tell us that it was a web lead. So all of that's going to be filled out automatically, potentially in your system when we set it up. So so that's just an example. So what I'm saying is that this entity would have been created automatically. Another thing that might happen, and we can turn this on or off depending on your preference, we can automatically assign the primary sales contact to this lead. Now, at some dealerships, you may have a sales manager who's in control of assigning the leads to the salespeople. If that's the case, we might just assign all the web leads to one person, and then they can come into the system and distribute that lead later on. So just let us know what your preference is on that. We can automatically assign this based on a rotation. So what a rotation is it's just a list of salespeople where the person who hasn't had a new lead in the longest amount of time is going to be at the top of that list, so they're getting the next lead that comes through the system. So it's a way of equitably assigning leads. So if that's okay, and if you want to create rotations, that's something that you can do in the software as well. We can definitely talk you through that if you're interested in actually using a lead rotation. And the next thing that's going to happen is this is going to hit the manager's dashboard so that you can see that a new lead has been added to the system. So at this point, I'm going to jump over to the manager's dashboard. And let me see if I have anything on the Q&A yet. Okay, so I don't have any open questions. So I'm just going to pause for a moment. If you guys have any questions about the material that we're covering, feel free to click on the Q&A in the webinar down there. It's probably at the bottom of the screen. If you move the mouse around, you should see Q&A. Yeah, feel free to type any of your questions in there, because at the end of this training, I'm going to be stopping and addressing those questions. So feel free to post your question in the chat. Okay, so this is just an example of the kind of information that we're going to get from those lead emails when we automatically import them here. What I'm going to do now is jump over to Program and Management Dashboard and talk about how you can track those new leads using the Manager's Dashboard. So what you're now seeing on your screen is what we call our new dashboard. If you were to open up the dashboard on your system, you might see our old dashboard. So I'm going to talk about the new dashboard first, and then I'm going to talk about the old dashboard afterwards. The new dashboard always looks like this the first time that you open it. Each user or each manager who's going to open up the Manager's Dashboard will need to set up their own dashboard according to the information that they want to see. So I'm just going to walk you through how that works. It's pretty quick. What I would do is go to Tools, New KPI, CRM, and it's going to be called Contact Status. And actually, that one doesn't have its own tab. So because I have no tabs, I have to go to Tools, Create New Tab, and then type in a name. So I'm going to put in Contact Status and hit OK. So now we have a new tab in here. Now I go to Tools, New KPI, CRM, Contact Status. Okay, so that KPI then needs to be anchored to my tab, Contact Status. So what I'm going to do is just move it up to those little blue icons and drop it. So now we have a Contact Status tab in here. And if we go to the little gear at the top right, we have our contact status, we have a company number, the refresh interval seconds is 60 seconds. So what this tab is showing us is all new leads that have been added to the system. And it's going to give us the status of how many minutes they've been sitting there without being contacted. Okay, so what I'm going to do is come in here and add a new contact. We're going to go ahead and put in, we're going to save our existing one. We're going to go ahead and put in a new one. Okay, so let's say this is a new customer request that's just entering in here. That's going to show up on the contact status tab. Actually, I'm not sure why I'm not getting any, not sure why it's not showing up here. Let me open that up again. Yeah, it's not showing up in my manager's dashboard. Not sure why that is. They should be showing up. Yeah, a second. Maybe I wasn't in the right CRM. Let me try that again. Okay, so we have a new lead. If I go to my dashboard and refresh it, okay, yeah, it seems like there's a problem here. It's not working. It was working yesterday when I tested it out, so there might be some kind of an issue here that I need to investigate. But normally they would show up there. The benefit of tracking this on the dashboard on this screen is because up until the point where the salesperson contacts the lead, they'll show up here and then they'll age out in different color brackets. So we have here a column that says the number of minutes that have expired since the lead was added to the system. That's going to increment for every minute that they sit on this list. Now there's a setting internally that can determine what color and how many minutes the lead is going to be staying in that color. So if we jump over here to the CRM portion of company information, there is a hours, a contact is marked as green, 0.05. Hours, contact is marked as yellow, 0.1. So basically that's going to determine it. Now the number of hours is going to translate into a number of minutes. So 0.1 is 6 minutes. So, and 0.05 is going to be 3 minutes. So with this setup, they're going to be green for 3 minutes that they're sitting there. And then they're going to move to yellow after 6 minutes. So that's something that you can change. And they do show up here. I don't know why it's not working in my test system here, but normally there's going to be a line in here that shows you that. So let me open up the old dashboard now and talk about how that looks. If we go to management dashboard here, the old dashboard doesn't show up with a blank screen. The old dashboard actually has tabs built in. So the tab that we're going to look at is under sales and prospecting, and it's the contact status tab. Same basic thing. This screen is going to refresh every 60 seconds and display new leads as they come in from the lead parser. And there's also a refresh button down here at the bottom. So it's a little bit different, same information on the contact status tab though. Okay, so that takes care of it. That's everything that I have to show you as far as lead parsing is concerned. So just to recap, lead parsing is all based on an email that you receive from your web provider. When customers submit their information online, that information is automatically what we call parsed into the CRM, which creates a lead for you. All right, so now I'm going to take a look at the Q&A. I'm just going to look at some of these questions here. I actually have one question. So if you guys have any questions as a summary, go ahead and post them into the Q&A now, and I'm going to be answering those questions. So Joy has a question, will our RV trader leads, web leads automatically import, or will we import them through a process? What is that process? Yeah, so there actually is a process to import leads from a spreadsheet that you can do, but that's in the CRM as a manual process. If we go into lead imports, we can go to File, Manual Import, in order to manually import those leads. At this point, you would then browse to your file where they are there, and then we can use a load a saved mapping for that. This would be like a manual import. You know, like I said, if you have questions about setting that up, you probably already have a file that you need to import. You know, the file that you import is going to be different for different purposes. Sometimes marketing companies will send you giant files full of leads. So that's what this is about. This is about taking a big file full of lead information and importing it to the CRM. So what I was really talking about in this webinar is just the automatic lead parsing that actually happens. Lead parsing is going to be something that happens based on an individual contact that a customer is submitting on a website. So that's just a specific email with 1 or 2 customers in there that can then be added as leads on an individual basis. All right, so that takes care of this webinar. I don't have any other questions that have come in. And we're just about at time right now as well. So these webinars are all going to be about 30 minutes long, not too much time out of your day. So in conclusion, I hope you guys learned something about how lead parsing works in our system. And I hope you all stay safe out there, stay healthy, and hope you have a great rest of your day. All right.